Single mom in America struggles alone until love arrives from an unexpected Vietnamese engineer. Life is never easy for a single mom in America. But what if in the middle of financial struggles and heartbreak, love quietly knocks on her door? Stay with this story until the very end. You'll feel every heartbeat, every tear, and every smile. And hey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next heartfelt story. Jasmine sat at the edge of her small dining table, a cup of cheap coffee trembling in her hand. The kitchen smelled faintly of reheated macaroni, and the buzzing of the fridge filled the silence of the early morning. Bills were stacked in front of her thin white envelopes that looked harmless but carried heavy weight. Her eyes burned not just from lack of sleep, but from the endless math of survival. She was 30 years old, a single mom, and living in America didn't feel like the dream people advertised on glossy postcards. It felt like an endless treadmill. Every month was a race. Every month the finish line moved farther away. Her daughter Lily slept soundly in the other room, a tangle of curls across her pillow. Jasmine often paused at her doorway just to listen to the soft rhythm of her breathing, to the innocence untouched by bills and heartbreak. That little girl was the reason Jasmine kept fighting. Content marketing was Jasmine's trade. She had left a steady 9 to 5 in hopes of flexibility, of being home for Lily, of chasing something that felt more alive. But freelancing was unpredictable. Some months she landed projects that kept the fridge full and the lights on. Other months, like this one, she wondered if she'd have to choose between rent and groceries. The child's father had disappeared into absence. Promises broken, child support, unpaid calls unanswered. Every time Jasmine thought maybe, just maybe, he would show up for Lily, reality reminded her he had chosen freedom over fatherhood. And yet he still drifted back, sometimes flashing smiles and empty words, disturbing the fragile balance Jasmine tried to maintain. It was during one of these fragile weeks that fate sent Alex into her orbit. It was a Tuesday. Jasmine's car had chosen the worst possible morning to give up its engine, coughed twice, then went silent in the parking lot outside their apartment complex. She had been on her way to pick Lily up from school. The panic bubbled quickly because lateness meant worry for Lily, and worry meant questions from teachers. Questions she didn't always want to answer. She leaned against the hood, muttering curses under her breath, when a voice broke the moment. "You need help." She turned to see a man about her age standing a few feet away. His build was lean, his posture modest, almost careful. He wore glasses that caught the afternoon light, and his accent carried a softness she couldn't place right away. "I think it's the battery," Jasmine said, trying to sound less frantic than she felt. The man nodded, approached, and after a brief introduction, "I'm Alex, by the way," he knelt by the hood, asking if she had jumper cables. She didn't. He smiled anyway. "It's okay. I keep some in my car." Within minutes, the engine coughed back to life. Relief washed through Jasmine, almost dizzying. "Thank you." She exhaled, her voice thin with exhaustion. Alex wiped his hands on a rag he carried, his smile small but genuine. "No problem. Happens to all of us." That was the first time. They crossed paths again days later in the courtyard where Lily played with chalk on the sidewalk. Jasmine sat nearby, laptop open, chasing a deadline. Alex appeared with a plate covered in foil. "I made too much food," he explained, offering it with a shrug. "Vietnamese flan. Do you want to try?" Lily's eyes widened instantly, curiosity winning. Jasmine hesitated, then accepted. The custard was smooth sweet with a caramel edge that lingered. For the first time in a while, Jasmine laughed, a small, surprised laugh that cracked the tension in her chest. Lily adored him almost instantly. Alex had a gentle patience with children kneeling to her level, listening as if every word mattered. He helped her draw crooked flowers with chalk, his big hands guiding her small ones. Jasmine watched, unsure what to make of the man who had drifted into their lives with jumper cables and caramel desserts. Evenings grew longer as summer pressed in. Jasmine found herself sitting outside with Alex while Lily chased fireflies. Their conversations began with small things, neighborhood noise, grocery prices, but slowly unwrapped into something deeper. Alex told stories of Vietnam, of bustling streets and Lunar New Year celebrations, of missing home and building a new life from scratch. Jasmine shared pieces of her own story, the struggle of being a single mother, the fear of never being enough, the strange dance of freedom and exhaustion. There was no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. And for Jasmine, that was new. But shadows never disappeared completely. One Friday evening, as Jasmine carried groceries inside, a familiar figure leaned against the stairwell. Marcus, Lily's father. His smile was sharp, his voice too casual. "Jazz, can we talk?" Her stomach sank. She knew this rhythm too well. Promises, apologies, then silence. Always the same cycle. She kept her voice steady. "I don't have time, Marcus." He stepped closer. "I'll get you the money, I swear. Just maybe we can try again for Lily." The audacity made her laugh, bitter and tired. Before she could reply, the apartment door opened and Alex stepped outside, pausing at the sight of the man. Marcus's smile faltered, replaced by something sharper. "And who's this?" Jasmine straightened her voice cool. "A neighbor." The air hung heavy for a moment until Marcus muttered something under his breath and walked away. Jasmine's hands trembled as she unlocked the door. Alex didn't push, didn't ask. He only said softly, "You okay?" She nodded, though her throat was tight. "Yeah, I'm okay." But inside, she wasn't. Not yet. The days rolled forward. Work piled up. Deadlines stretched her thin. But there was a new presence in her orbit now, one that brought balance instead of chaos. Alex helped where he could, fixing the leaky faucet, explaining fractions to Lily, offering small kindnesses without asking for anything in return. Sometimes Jasmine caught herself staring when he wasn't looking, wondering what it would feel like to lean on someone and not have them walk away. The thought scared her as much as it comforted her. And so their story began not with fireworks, but with shadows and first light creeping slowly across the horizon of two tired hearts. The weeks pressed forward, bringing with them the heat of late summer. Jasmine's life was still a careful balancing act, but it no longer felt like she was walking alone. Alex had quietly become part of her days, weaving himself into the fabric of her routines. He never intruded. He simply showed up in small ways that mattered: a bag of groceries when she was short on cash, a helping hand when deadlines piled high, a listening ear when the weight of silence grew too heavy. Lily adored him. She waited for his knock in the evenings, eager to show him her drawings or tell him about school. Sometimes Jasmine found them sitting cross-legged on the floor, Lily's little brow furrowed as Alex explained fractions with the patience of a saint. It was a sight that made her chest ache with something she hadn't felt in years, the fragile hope of stability. Still, Jasmine guarded her heart. Too many broken promises had left scars. Trust was not easily given, and the thought of depending on another man felt dangerous, like walking barefoot over glass. One night after Lily had gone to bed, Jasmine and Alex sat on the porch steps, the air heavy with the scent of cut grass. Fireflies blinked in the distance, their light pulsing gently. "Do you ever feel, Jasmine," began her voice low, "like you're carrying the whole world on your back? And if you stumble even once, everything will collapse?" Alex was quiet for a moment, his gaze fixed on the dark sky. Then he nodded. "When I first came here, I worked 3 jobs. Dishwasher, delivery driver, night shifts. I sent money home every month. There were nights I didn't sleep. I thought if I stopped even for one night, my family would suffer." Jasmine turned to look at him. His face was calm, but his voice carried the weight of lived truth. "How did you keep going?" He smiled faintly. "Because giving up wasn't an option. And because I kept believing that one day things would be better." His words settled into her like an anchor, steadying the chaos. She didn't reply, but her silence was softer than it had been before. The cracks appeared when Marcus returned again. He showed up outside Lily's school, leaning against his car, trying to charm his way back into their lives. Jasmine's stomach twisted at the sight of him. His promises were always the same child support reconciliation, a fresh start. And yet his history spoke louder than his words. That evening, Jasmine found herself pacing the living room, anger simmering. Alex sat quietly watching her storm. "He thinks he can just walk back in," Jasmine muttered. "Like he didn't leave us, like he didn't break every damn promise." Alex's voice was calm, almost cautious. "What do you want, Jasmine?" She stopped pacing, meeting his eyes. The question lingered in the air. What did she want? For Marcus to change, for the past to rewrite itself? Or maybe, just maybe, for a future that didn't depend on someone who had already proven he couldn't stay? Her silence answered for her. The financial pressure grew heavier that month. Jasmine landed a large content project, thousands of words for a startup, promising payment on delivery. She poured herself into it, nights blurred into mornings, deadlines pressing against her skin. When she finally submitted exhausted and hopeful, the silence that followed was crushing. The client vanished. No replies, no payment. The money she had counted on to cover rent evaporated into thin air. She broke down in the kitchen that night, head in her hands, tears soaking the bills spread across the table. Lily peeked from the doorway, confusion in her eyes. Alex was the one who knelt beside Jasmine, steady and quiet. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. The word struck her. She wasn't used to hearing it. Not from someone who stayed. Marcus appeared again days later as if sensing weakness. His voice was honey-slick, his smile rehearsed. "Jazz, you don't need to struggle like this. I've got steady work now. We can try again. For Lily's sake." Jasmine wanted to laugh and scream all at once. For Lily's sake. Where had he been all those nights Lily cried herself to sleep? Where had he been when the fridge was empty, when shoes were too small, when she juggled 3 deadlines at once? And yet the fear pressed in. Stability, even false, was tempting. What if she failed Lily? What if Alex realized she was too much, too broken, too heavy? That night she sat outside with Alex, the weight of Marcus's words choking her. She confessed her fear in a whisper. "What if I'm not enough? What if Lily deserves more than what I can give?" Alex's reply was quiet but fierce. "Jasmine, you're already giving her everything that matters. Love, safety, a mother who fights for her every day. Don't let anyone make you believe that's not enough." Her throat tightened. For a moment she wanted to reach for his hand to let herself believe in the warmth he offered. But fear held her still. The tension reached her breaking point when Lily, with childlike honesty, looked up one evening and said, "Mommy, I wish Alex was my dad." The room froze. Jasmine's breath caught Alex's eyes widened. Lily smiled innocently, unaware of the storm her words unleashed. Jasmine tucked her into bed that night with a heart that felt split in two. Marcus's shadow loomed, Alex's presence lingered, and the fragile threads of her future stretched taut. Something had to break, and soon. It happened after another argument with Marcus. He had shown up demanding a second chance, his words edged with frustration when Jasmine stood firm. Voices rose sharp and bitter. Lily hid behind the couch, tears brimming in her eyes. Alex was there, stepping in quietly, his voice steady. "Enough," Marcus sneered. "Stay out of this. You don't know what's best for them." Alex didn't raise his voice, but the firmness in his tone was unshakable. "I know what's best isn't a man who walks away when things get hard." The silence that followed was thick. Marcus's glare lingered before he stormed out, leaving the door rattling in his wake. Jasmine stood, trembling, anger and relief colliding. She turned to Alex, her voice breaking. "Why do you care so much?" His reply was simple, almost fragile. "Because I see you, and I see Lily, and I don't want either of you to carry this alone. It was too much, too raw." Jasmine's walls threatened to crumble, but part of her still held back, terrified of what it would mean if she let them fall completely. And so the fracture widened, the choice between past and future fear and hope, loneliness, and the possibility of love. The horizon darkened, but within it flickered the fragile light of something new. Autumn crept into the city, carrying crisp winds and skies painted in shades of fading blue. The leaves turned tumbling across sidewalks where Lily skipped on her way to school. For Jasmine, the season mirrored her heart. Change was coming, whether she was ready or not. The fracture between Marcus and Alex lingered like a bruise. Jasmine replayed the confrontation in her mind, Marcus's bitterness against Alex's steady calm. She wanted to believe the choice was clear, but fear whispered louder than reason. Dependence frightened her. Hope frightened her. To let Alex in fully meant risking heartbreak again. But life had a way of drawing her forward. Jasmine's freelance projects stabilized with Alex's quiet support. He had introduced her to a contact in his tech network companies looking for marketing talent startups, eager for content with heart. For the first time in months, invoices turned into payments on time. Groceries filled the fridge. The anxiety of the bills loosened its grip piece by piece. It wasn't a miracle. It was simply persistence, and someone who cared enough to open a door. One evening, Jasmine found Alex in his apartment, sleeves rolled up, stirring a pot that filled the room with warm, savory scents. "What is it tonight?" she asked, a smile tugging her lips. "Pho," he said with a small grin. "Takes time, but worth it." She sat at his table, watching steam curl from the broth. He moved with ease, careful and deliberate. It was the first time she realized how safe she felt in his presence, how the tension in her shoulders eased just by being near him. When they ate, Lily slurped noodles, noisily giggling. Jasmine laughed too, a sound freer than it had been in years. For that moment, the world shrank to 3 people at a table, the warmth of soup and the glow of something that felt like family. Damn, but Marcus was not gone. He lingered like a shadow, showing up with demands and thinly veiled accusations. Jasmine grew weary of the cycle, the constant tug-of-war between past and present. One rainy evening, Marcus appeared at her door again. His voice was sharp frustration spilling over. "You think he's better than me? Some immigrant with a decent job. He doesn't know you like I do." Jasmine's patience snapped, her voice though low-cut, sharper than his anger. "You don't know me anymore, Marcus. You left. You don't get to come back and claim what you gave up." Lily clung to her side, eyes wide. Alex stepped forward, not to fight, but to stand steady, a silent wall between them. Marcus's words faltered. He muttered curses, then stormed off into the rain. And this time Jasmine didn't feel shaken. She felt free. The weeks after carried a gentler rhythm. Jasmine allowed herself to lean into the quiet moments with Alex. They walked Lily to the park, shared coffee on the porch, traded stories that once felt too heavy to tell. Slowly, trust stitched itself where wounds had been. One evening, as Lily drew with crayons at the table, Jasmine turned to Alex, her voice trembling. "You've done so much for us. I keep waiting for the catch, for the day you decide it's too much." Alex shook his head, his gaze steady. "Jasmine, I'm not here to rescue you. I'm here because I want to be. Because with you and Lily, it feels like home." Tears pricked her eyes. For once, she didn't hide them. She let herself be seen, and in that moment, the walls she had built for years finally crumbled. The change wasn't dramatic. It was slow, steady, like dawn stretching across the horizon. Jasmine's work grew stronger. Lily thrived at school, her laughter filling rooms that had once felt heavy with silence. And Alex became part of their days in ways that felt natural, unforced. There were still struggles, deadlines, bills, the uncertainty of the future. But there was also partnership, a shared weight, a promise that even when the road was rough, they wouldn't walk it alone. The first snow of winter arrived quietly, dusting rooftops and blanketing the city in white. Jasmine, Alex, and Lily bundled in coats, carrying a picnic basket out to the park. The cold bit at their cheeks, but laughter warmed the air. They spread a blanket on the snow, sipping cocoa, watching Lily chase flakes that melted in her palms. Alex pulled out a kite, its bright fabric vivid against the pale sky. He showed Lily how to hold the string, how to run with the wind. Jasmine watched them, her heart full in a way she hadn't thought possible. The fear that had once gripped her, loosened, replaced by a quiet certainty, this was where she belonged. This was the future she wanted. When Lily finally tired, collapsing into the snow with giggles, Alex turned to Jasmine. His voice was soft but sure. "I don't have wealth or promises of perfection, but I can promise this: I won't walk away. Not from you, not from her." Jasmine's chest ached with the weight of his sincerity. She reached for his hand, fingers lacing with his, and whispered, "That's all we need." The horizon stretched wide before them, filled with challenges and unknowns, but also with love that had been forged in the fire of struggle. Jasmine was no longer carrying the world alone. Lily was no longer waiting for a father who wouldn't come. And Alex, the quiet engineer from Vietnam, had found a home where he never expected it. The story did not end with riches or grand gestures. It ended with something stronger, 3 souls bound together by choice, by trust, by love. A single mom, a child, and a man who chose to stay. The world was still imperfect, but in their little corner it was enough.